we believe what we're building is really the future for understanding student needs in higher education. Yeah. So again, we really empathize with our users and with the problem. And so right now we are laser focused on solving this for schools and, generating these new data metrics on how the students are doing through their, really measuring the end-to-end student life cycle through getting that feedback. But I think the vision is, we start in this vertical market, but we've already had other industries come and ask to use our product. And so, like, for example, there was a nurse in WVU Healthcare, their head nurse practitioner, and she was like, "Hey, I want to start doing inpatient check-ins, and so I can monitor how these patients are doing." There was a landlord who came to us and was like, "I want to get feedback from my tenants," and all these other horizontal markets. And so we're realizing the value of the data that we're collecting.
Positively West Virginia is powered by Breezeline high-speed fiber internet and sponsored by Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Key of Morgantown, Interaction Media, and Storymaker. With the help of these sponsors, we are able to share the positive business stories of West Virginians, including the one featured in today's episode.
Well, folks, we're visiting today with the founders of Brite, a software and technology company here in West Virginia. We've got Nate Wimer, Craig Dombrowski, and Lukas Thackery, the founders of Brite. Guys, thanks for being on the show today.
It is an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Nate, before we get into the introduction, I want to tell folks what Brite is. If you could maybe get us started, and you guys can chip in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of a little bit about what we're building. So Brite is software that helps universities identify students who are at risk of dropping out. So universities can make proactive interventions, retain students, and ultimately save money. And so kind of the reason why we're building that is because we talked with a ton of university administrators, and they told us that the biggest threat that institutions face today is student attrition. And so there's all these different college students who come into college and who are really just struggling in a post-COVID world. There's mental health battles, there's academic unpreparedness, really all of these things that contribute to a student leaving. And what we heard from administrators is that oftentimes they kind of go under the radar and they only find out about these students after it's too late. Like, they never get connected with resources and they drop out, which not only hurts the student's future, but really impacts, the university financially. Yeah. And so what we heard was this was really primarily caused by a lack of data and visibility surrounding, student needs. Yeah. And so kind of how our company solves that today is what we do is we give universities brand new data metrics on student needs. And so universities can really understand students better than ever before. They can identify specific students who need connected and ultimately reach out proactively, and retain them until graduation. And so the way we do that is on our student app. So students answer daily check-in questions about the university experience, and then they're incentivized with prizes provided by local business partners in these college communities. And so students love it because they're getting this free stuff like free burritos, all these other different incentives. Yeah. Local businesses love it because it's a new channel to advertise, and then universities love it because it just gives them this new data and visibility so they can continuously improve for their student body. So so that's kind of the whole overview. Yeah. Happy to dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Lukas, you want to chime in with your aspect of it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we're pretty uniquely poised as recent college graduates ourselves.
Yeah.
Actually building something for college students. And so it's not like we're building for some massive age gap away. We're building this for ourselves and our friends, which sets us up in a pretty nice place and gives us a little bit of a head start advantage in terms of developing the product into something that we know that people will actually want, and helping us get a bit of a jump start in actually engaging these college communities.
Yeah, I love it very much. Very, very, very cool. Craig, what are your thoughts? Do you have anything to add to that?
I think these guys
they're summing it up pretty good.
Yeah, just another way of giving back to the students that are going through these hard times with academic issues and mental health struggles.
Yeah, so all three of you are recent graduates of West Virginia University, May of 2024. Craig, if you could tell us about your role in the company.
Yeah, so I'm the acting CTO. I get to oversee the product as we know it. It's been a great journey, honestly, and the biggest learning has been never to be too attached to what it is, because, the next iteration is coming. But I've been working with our founding engineer, Will, and we've been crushing it, building updates and releasing new ways to inspire students.
Yeah, I love it. Lucas, what's your role?
So my role is the chief product officer. And so what that means is it's a lot of iteration, talking to users, testing out brand new features, and then working closely with Craig and Will, especially to design the product, figure out what's next, and also work with Nate to make sure that the product is actually solving those university pain points at the end of the day while still matching the student need point.
Yeah. And Nate, what's your role?
Yeah, I think these guys are being a little bit humble. I mean, in the early days of a startup, all the co-founders doing a little of everything. So we're really, chipping away at all different aspects. But what I kind of primarily oversee is just like the university sales efforts as well as fundraising. Of course, there's the customer success piece, kind of more like the businessy type stuff, but, still working alongside the product, because at the end of the day, the end goal of any startup is product-led growth. And so it's really just making sure that, we are building something that people want, and that, again, like Lucas said, solves those hair on fire problems.
Yeah.
Really,
how did you guys get started with Brite anyway?
How much time you got, Jim?
Well, give us the 30-second overview.
Sure. So, long story short, I actually met James Carnes of Iconic Air.
Sure.
He's a fellow software founder.
Have they been on the podcast before?
Yeah, he's fantastic. So he kind of, we started building Brite in college, but he was the one that kind of gave us that initial spark to just give it a try.
Were you in the business school, engineering school? What were you guys studying?
So I graduated with my degree in mechanical engineering. Craig was aerospace engineering, and then Lucas was, a combination of both of us with mechanical and aerospace engineering and his MBA.
It's amazing.
So we didn't really know that this entrepreneurship route was a thing. Yeah. And so we just gave it a shot. We really just, it's changed so much over time. Like what I'm saying Brite is today, I mean, it's only got there through iterations and all these testings. Yeah. But what helped us kind of get to this point is we did some business competitions, Ignite West Virginia, the West Virginia Business Plan Competition. Yeah. That kind of got us some funding to really get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, Nate, I think you and I met in the fall of 2023, about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, and that was at the Chambers College of Business and Economics. And we were both presenting that day. I believe John Chambers was in town that day as well, which was pretty cool, and got to meet him. But I remember hearing about Brite at that point in your iteration. And that was, I believe it was getting real-time feedback for professors to see what the students in their class were thinking of their teaching or whatever.
It was,
right?
Correct.
Their content presentation. Now you guys have completely pivoted, same space, but different model. What how does that come about? You mentioned listening. I would like to hear each of y'all's thoughts on that. How does that come about, like that switch, that pivot, if you will?
Yeah, we tell a lot of people what we're doing with Brite today, and they say, that's a great idea. How did you get to that? How'd you come up with that idea? And we say, this was not plan A. It wasn't plan B. This was probably plan C or D. And we just got here through, these constant experiments. And so just to answer your question. So yes, it was a feedback tool for professors. We launched a beta test, about a year ago today for 36 professors across 6 institutions. And what we found was, these professors said, oh, this would be great. We would love to have this. And so we gave it to them. And within the first about 2 months, usage from professors and students went to 0. So, we talked to them, we tried to figure it out. And ultimately what we learned is that it was a nice to have, it wasn't a need to have, which is a big difference. Yeah. And so then we kind of went back to the drawing board. We said, what do university administrators really care about? And so we did a big round of customer discovery, really empathizing with a new problem. So that's whenever we talked with over, probably over 100 university administrators across 36 institutions, we heard about these new pain points with regards to what we talked about earlier, a lot of students dropping out and, kind of a lack of visibility onto how they're doing, finding out too late. And so that's whenever we kind of, we just made these iterations. We launched a new product. We got feedback. And over time, it just kind of evolved to what it is today. So not a light bulb moment whatsoever.
No, that's great. I'd love to hear that. And we'll talk more about that when we get back. This is Positively West Virginia.
Your prescriptions are designed to keep you healthy, active, full of life. At Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're making vital medicine more affordable. Because when your prescriptions don't cost an arm and a leg, you can use those limbs for something more meaningful. Because life. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, West Virginia.
At Freedom Kia, you'll find the perfect ride and savings for your summer adventures. This summer, dive into savings and fun. Just down the road is the Aquatic Center at Milan Park, where you can cool off and have some fun.
Find what you have been searching for in the 2024 Kia Telluride right now at Freedom Kia of Morgantown. Qualified buyers can save $2,500 on the 2024 Kia Telluride. For your next new Kia, look no further than Freedom Kia exit I-79, exit 153, Morgantown.
And we're back. We're visiting with Nate Wimer, Craig Dombrowski, and Lukas Thackery. They're the founders of Brite, a technology company here in West Virginia, focusing in the collegiate space with academia and universities. You know, one of the things, and Craig, maybe you can address this, if you will. We talk about, a lot of companies start with a great solution. They have this idea. They want to bring it to market. But I'm of the opinion that you need to fall in love with the problem first. Really get deep into the problem. And it sounds like what Nate was saying is that that's what you guys are doing. You're really understanding that deep problem within higher education institutions. Talk about that.
Yeah, we absolutely wanted to tackle this problem, which is a huge thing across the entire country right now.
And you didn't even know that was the problem.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we started with providing feedback to professors, and now we're trying to solve a nationwide crisis.
Yeah.
It's been a real journey, but
I think it's amazing.
I think that it starts with the students, right? Providing a real value to them. And I think to address the initial drop-off, which we saw with our students whenever we released in our beta test, we didn't have any prizes to give away. We didn't have local businesses on board. Yeah. And so that step in our journey has really allowed more users to come back and see the value in what we do. And then also knowing that they're helping their university improve is also another big impact for them.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off what Craig's saying, like ever since we made that iteration, we've had students come back to use our app every single day for over 8 months. Like they have made it a daily habit.
It's almost like you've got a gamification.
Exactly.
With the incentives.
Yeah. We really, again, it's like what we heard from administrators, but it's so hard to engage students. Like, how do we get them to respond? It's like, oh, well, that's the one thing that we're experts at because we're Gen Z. Like we know how other students think. And so we just launched these gamification, these social strategies. Yeah, and so right now we have a couple thousand student users across WVU, Marshall, Fairmont State, Concord University, and WVU Tech. And, we've had over 100 local businesses give those incentives. We've given away over $10,000 worth of prizes. So students love it. And what that's creating is this new data to really just help universities fight student attrition and, again, make those proactive.
I think that's great. Lukas, as the chief product officer, you've got a pretty cool product now. How do you go about interacting with those end users, the university administrators and that kind of thing? How do you get that feedback? It seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, how do we get the feedback is a great question. And I'll say, kind of like Nate mentioned, it started off as just a matter of asking questions. Yeah. And it kind of felt like a survey, which internally we've kind of deemed a bad word because we want to get away from the survey stigma and lean it more towards a fun and gamified experience that actually collects that data. Yeah. Really gearing it towards our Gen Z audience for universities. Yeah. And after we're collecting this data, we're working directly with university administrators so that we can make a real good handshake there at the end to make sure that the data that we're providing exactly matches the puzzle piece that they're missing actually in their data picture for students.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Now, how do you I think, Nate, you mentioned that you've won some funding or got some funding through some of these business plan competitions. How are you guys, what's the revenue model? Is it through the advertisers? Like that you're talking with these local businesses? Is it through the university? How's the revenue model look?
Yeah. So
you don't have to give us secrets or anything.
No. Again, no problem at all. So we actually have two revenue streams. So we make money in two ways. The first is, university enterprise contracts. And so they basically pay us a yearly subscription fee to access the data and, really understand those student needs so they can, again, identify those students and give them resources to boost their retention rate. So that's one way. And then the other way is actually through the local business advertisers. And so, again, they are giving like these $10 gift cards, these free coffees. But what it's doing is a lot of students come to college and they have no idea that these local businesses even exist. And so this kind of gives them that new exposure that doesn't feel like an ad, but still, kind of publicizes. So they pay a monthly subscription fee just to kind of, be able to have access to that digital billboard.
Well, that's great. Well, the coolest part about that is that's a hard to reach audience, right? If you're in a business that caters to the college market, it's hard to reach them. It used to be back when I was in college, the Daily Athenaeum here on campus at WVU was the thing, right?
Right.
But everybody picked up the newspaper. Now I don't know what it looks like these days on campus, but I would imagine it's following the trends of other legacy and traditional media, right? This is kind of losing relevance. So this is along comes Brite, and you've got a way for those local businesses to tap in to that college crowd. And not necessarily like one of you guys said it, I can't remember who said it, but it doesn't look like an ad. It doesn't feel like an ad. It's just an engagement. It's a prize, but it's also promotion.
Exactly. Yeah, we're kind of the middleman in between the college community and just the university. So that's kind of where Brite fills that gap.
And so, as three recent graduates from the university, here we are. 7-8 months into your career, and you guys are doing this full time. It's all in. You're betting on yourselves, which I think is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
What's the thing you're most excited about for Brite right now? I'll start over here.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm excited. I mean, we're all excited about so many different things. Yeah. There's too many things to be excited about.
Yeah.
But I think the number one thing right now is just earlier this November. So right now we're actively raising our first round of capital.
Yeah.
And so we just secured our lead investor, Brad Smith of Wing to Wing Ventures.
Oh my goodness.
And so for those of you who don't know him, he's the University of Marshall's, he's the president. And so really just getting his advice and his feedback and his mentorship surrounding our overall go-to-market strategy, our business model. I mean, he is an expert in our industry, right? Like in higher education. Yeah. So that's, for me, that's the number one thing.
And technology.
For our entire team. And technology, absolutely. Absolutely. So that we are really, really excited to just, get his overall recommendations while we continue to build this.
Yeah. What's his thoughts on Brite?
Yeah, I mean, he experiences the problem every single day at Marshall University. And so he really understands the problem better than a lot of people.
Is that intimidating working with a mentor like that for you guys?
I don't think so at all, actually. I mean we're very open-minded. We want to really just learn from those who are experts, and so we just want to continue to build. So he was able,
through Wing to Wing, he was able to do a funding opportunity for you guys. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
I remember. It was about this time last year, I had a conversation. He had offered to help me a little bit with my SaaS application, how we met with StoryMaker.
Yeah,
and it was really cool because I had a chance to have numerous conversations with him and some of his team. And at one point, he's like, Jim, I think you need to partner with MailChimp. And he said, I'm going to set up a call with you and Rania Sakour, who's the CEO of MailChimp. And I thought, oh, yeah, this is really going to happen. I'm like, it was a great promise, right? Well, the next day I had an email. Here we are. And she was like, let's talk. She and I had 3 conversations about, and there was a point where she was interested in acquiring StoryMaker. And I was like, but it didn't work out, but it was an amazing opportunity. And that's leveraging the power of a West Virginia relationship like that is very smart on your guys' behalf. What are you most excited about, Lukas?
I'm most excited that we're really seeing some positive signs of traction with our student body. We're seeing students actually referring other students. We've even seen students refer their favorite business, like somebody that we might have not talked to before. And they're actually going in, they're recommending like, hey guys, like I really love this app called Brite, and I think you guys could actually get a lot of value out of it.
That's cool.
And so we've seen that a couple times.
That's
where
amazing.
Students.
Yeah, when you have a little when you have champion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking on your behalf, I think that's great. A raving fan.
Yeah, and that's where the product comes in so importantly too, because if it's something that students love, they'll be more than willing to tell. Hopefully the most important thing at the dinner table.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, did you think of anything that you're excited about now?
Yeah, I'm really excited seeing the way universities treat us with the data we've been able to collect so far with almost no marketing.
Yeah.
And to realize how big of an impact and how big of a need this is for these universities is just really something.
That's super cool. Mm-hmm. Are all three of you from West Virginia originally?
Yeah, so Craig and I are Morgantown natives, so born and raised.
We went to the same high school.
Oh my gosh. All
Yeah,
right.
Morgantown
This is
High.
so cool. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys go way back. I'm from Northern Virginia, but I've been in West Virginia since 2018, so the past 6 years.
Yeah, that's great.
And I love every minute of it.
I always, when I meet somebody, Lucas, like that, I say, you are not from West Virginia, but you got here as quickly as you could.
Yeah, now I'm a trout fisherman through and through, so they got me hooked.
Yeah.
Literally. That's great. All right. Well, I want to kind of go back to, the big picture, I guess, is, from how, getting the word out there, like marketing this thing. Okay. You guys have a cohort of early adopters who, universities that are using the software. You got students that are using it. How do you grow that thing? How do you get the word out there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think for the first, 8 months, what we did is our go-to-market strategy was really centered around top-down sales. And so it was me getting on Zoom calls with university administrators and saying, hey, you guys, there's this app that you could use to, kind of really understand, your student barriers. And then over time, we had some pilots, right? It did work.
Yeah.
We had some university pilots that are still in effect today. But what we were realizing the past couple of months is like, hey, we don't necessarily need university's approval to go and, really start engaging the student body. And so what we've actually seen students, like Lucas mentioned, start referring their friends. Yeah. And so we have students that have tried to download and use our app across like 15 schools across the country. So this is all organic word of mouth growth. Wow. And user referrals. And so that just comes back to whenever the product is so good, just really doubling down on the value that it provides students, that people will talk about it. So that's just one of many different strategies that we're doing to kind of engage Gen Z and spread our reach and keep growing. Yeah. Of course, there's a whole slew of things that we to try to get that initial cohort, but that's one that's been really promising. I think that's another thing that
word of mouth.
Very excited about.
Oh, that's great, Nate. Thanks for sharing that. This is Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
My name's Caitlin Furby. I'm an interior designer with Remarkable Interiors. Our time is very limited. We're trying to do everything we can possible to keep our clients' projects moving and rolling. So StoryMaker has been really great for us for putting out how to explain our company. I can sit and agonize about a post. And is this right? Does this sound good? When I use StoryMaker, it sounds so beautiful and it was so easy, and it saves me a lot of time to do the things that I'm really good at.
Stay connected with an unbeatable deal from Breezeline. Get reliable, fiber-powered 500 megabits internet for $39.99 per month with a $100 gift card and price lock guarantee, plus a free modem, free installation, and free Wi-Fi your way. Folks, here at Interaction Media, we're a media company, and we rely on high-speed internet every single day to get our jobs done. That's why we use Breezeline. It's affordable, it's fast, and they're awesome people as well. Learn more at breezeline.com. Folks, we're back. We're visiting today with Nate Wimer. Shoot, let me do that again. You good? Sorry, Jimmy. Here we go. You still rolling?
Yeah, you're still good.
Folks, we're visiting today with the founders of Brite, a software and technology company here in West Virginia. Nate Wimer, Craig Dombrowski, and Lukas Thackery. Guys, thanks again for being here. What's the vision you guys have long-term for Brite? What's that look like? Nate, we'll start with you and we'll go around the horn. I'd like to hear from all three of you.
Sure. Yeah. So we believe what we're building is really the future for understanding student needs in higher education. Yeah. So again, we really empathize with our users and with the problem. And so right now we are laser focused on solving this for schools and generating these new data metrics on how the students are doing through their really measuring the end-to-end student life cycle through getting that feedback. But I think the vision is we start in this vertical market, but we've already had other industries come and ask to use our product. And so, like for example, there was a nurse in WVU Healthcare, their head nurse practitioner, and she was like, "Hey, I want to start doing inpatient check-ins, and so I can monitor how these patients are doing." There was a landlord who came to us and was like, "I want to get feedback from my tenants," and all these other horizontal markets. And so we're realizing like the value of the data that we're collecting. And our method of engagement could potentially, expand. But for now, like, that's great and all, but for now we're definitely.
Well, I liked what you said. You're laser focused. And
Yes.
I have an acronym that I've probably heard somewhere along the way, but it's focus, follow one course until success.
Yes.
Because without a clear vision, it's impossible to tell an opportunity from a
100%.
distraction.
There's a lot of distractions.
There's a lot of
out there.
distractions out
Yes.
there as an entrepreneur.
Yes, there are.
Thoughts on the vision?
Yeah, as for the vision, I think it really just comes back to our core mission of making feedback fun. And so right now it's being applied to universities.
It's not a survey, it's feedback, right?
Exactly. It's just making feedback fun. It's making it worthwhile.
Yeah.
And then we've already seen some really good signs of that so far in a university setting.
Yeah.
And kind of like Nate mentioned, there's plenty of opportunity outside of there for companies or anybody that needs feedback and folks that are willing to give it. But right now, again, laser focused on universities, but hoping to grow that eventually.
That's great. Craig?
Yeah, and I think the biggest picture would be to go nationwide and have a national standard where universities can compare their school to other schools to really see, how's my university doing in relation to my students.
Now that would be a national championship worthy of winning, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking about
sure.
gamification. Let's make a national champion.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool, and I do feel like, with regard to the student engagement, dropout rates, and all those kinds of things, having that feedback. And as I'm listening to you guys talk, I'm just thinking like, this is brilliant. The idea that you've come up with, and how you've really gone from this idea that you had initially a couple of years ago to bring it to where you are in November of 24. You've got this thing really tight, and you're solving for a great problem, I think.
Thank you, Jim.
What's one piece of advice that each of you would give to other entrepreneurs? Maybe they're somebody in college, maybe they're thinking about entering a business plan competition, or maybe it's somebody out there who's in their 40s or 50s thinking about starting a business. What's the advice that you would give to them?
Yeah. I just kind of go back to whenever we first met James Carnes, the iconic co-founder along with Kyle, and their advice really helped us get to this point, right? So I think that our advice that we would kind of give to the next generation of founders would probably be a lot of people think that you need to build a product to get customers, right? So a lot of people think, I need to build this app first and then launch it, or I need to build out this service and then launch it. That's actually, we learned the hard way. It's not true at all. You can run a scrappy experiment to prove demand before you build it. And so, for example, before we even touched any software with building out this local business platform, what we did is we actually we went door to door with a piece of paper and a pencil, and we wrote down these codes and taped them to the back of cash registers. And then only whenever we found that it was useful and it really solved their problem, then we went and we built out this platform. So I think that this Dropbox is another great example. What they did is they launched a web page. They built up their they didn't even have a product. They just said, hey, here's this thing that we're doing. They launched the website that they probably made for $30 on Wix, and they built up this great wait list, and then that proved enough demand for them to go and then further build the product. So I think that my one piece of advice would be make sure people want it first. Then you don't have to waste time and money building something that people don't want. And then that way you can really go
That's
out.
genius, and it's simple, right?
Yeah.
But it's so
Something we learned the hard way, like I said. We've wasted a lot of time building things that aren't valuable.
Yeah. Well, again, you fall in love with your product or your service, not the problem. And that's why I always say that. That's simple advice I always give people is fall in love with the problem. Because if you just fall in love with your product, maybe nobody wants to fork over their hard-earned dough for your deal, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah, I'll say that,
Lucas,
kind of like you mentioned with Nate with experimenting, just a matter of doing that in a very quick time span is, I think, very important.
fail fast.
Fail fast, absolutely, 100%. Where I'll even say, for example, we all came together, had an idea last Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, Craig and Will built it out, and then here we are on Monday pushing out this update to see if it works. And so it's not a matter of waiting several months to push out a feature, go through all these reviews and stuff. It's just a matter of
Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it. Put it in front of people and see if it sticks. And if not, fail fast and go back and find the next thing.
Yeah. Craig?
Yeah, like these guys said already, you got to be not afraid to fail. You got to be scrappy. Like, really, it's just as many times as you can iterate and see how things are what's gonna stick and what's not, and to not be afraid of failing, because it's growth and it's learning at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think the one last piece of advice I would give is, I think a lot of, especially college students, they get in that mindset of, I have this test on Friday. After I take that test, then it'll be like, and so I think that we kind of adopted that mindset early on. It's like, oh, after we get our first customer, life will be good. Or after we raise our first round of funding, life will be good. Well, actually, it's the complete opposite. As you get more successful, things get exponentially harder because there's just more things to manage. Yeah. And so I think that like having a mindset shift, and so whenever things get harder, it's actually a good thing because it means you're on the right track.
Yeah, that's I've never heard it put quite like that, Nate, and I appreciate that for sure, and that's definitely true. Yeah. And I think did that come as a shock to you, like understanding that initially, like, wow, I thought this was going to be a lot easier, but it's it just means you got to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, I think it definitely was a little bit hard to adapt. It's like, but ultimately, again, it was kind of we're starting to become grateful for the problems we have. It's like, sometimes it's really easy to get stressed out about all these different things to manage, but it's like, wow, we're blessed to be put in this situation to, have a customer and, jump on these technical support calls and all these different types of things. So,
well, gratitude is an important part of success, I believe. And I'm thankful that you just mentioned that, because we were just talking about that in my team meeting this morning, and, gratitude for time, the air in our lungs this morning, right? It's a great thing. Gratitude for our talents and abilities, and you guys have a lot of that. I mean, engineering students, you guys are smart dudes, and here you are coming up with something that's really fascinating, and I think it's going to be a big winner, not only in the academia industry, but other things like you talked about. You got to get this one dialed in first. Follow one course until success.
Yes, sir.
And then finally, gratitude for our treasure. You guys have wherewithal. You got a business. You're getting funding. You're doing something. You're following your passion right out of college and doing it full time. And I think that's really cool too. So, guys, we've covered a lot in this interview. Is there anything else you think our listeners should know about your story for Brite?
Man,
we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground. But yeah, I think it's really just it is such a journey. I think along the journey there are the highest of highs, and then you go through the lowest of lows. And a lot of founders don't like to talk about that because they want to make it seem real, flashy and sexy. But it is a hard journey. Yeah. But ultimately, it is. You're always going to have that voice in the back of your head. And so I think just staying resilient and showing up every single day whenever you don't feel like it. That's something that we just kind of held true, and ultimately it's compounded over time. Yeah. So we'll keep building, and ultimately helping schools, helping students succeed through new data, and
I like that. Press on,
absolutely.
Yep, absolutely, guys. Well, I just want to say, our guests today are Nate Wimer, Craig Dombrowski, and Lukas Thackery, the founders of Brite. Guys, if somebody wants to learn more about Brite, what's the best way for them to do that? And we'll make sure that we put that in the show notes and social media.
Sure.
Tag you guys and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. We each have our personal LinkedIns. We also have our company one. Our website is brite.company, www.brite.company. Also, our Instagram, we have an Instagram where we post some reels and whatnot. So the DMs works as well.
That's very cool. Well, I think you guys are doing something really fantastic in the tech space. It's one of those, it's a piece of technology that's going to, again, continue to put West Virginia on the map as a tech state. I think that's awesome. You guys, especially I think, Craig and Nate, you guys growing up here in Morgantown, going to WVU and creating the software to keep students in school, I think is a good thing. I think what you're doing is really great, and I just want to encourage you to keep up the work.
Jim, that means a lot.
Oh yeah,
Seriously.
This is great stuff.
That's fantastic.
We'd like to thank our partners, Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, Interaction Media, Storymaker, and our studio sponsor, Breezeline, for helping to share these positive stories. If you'd like to become a sponsor of the Positively West Virginia podcast, visit positivelywv.com/sponsor.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on our show, drop us a line on our website at positivelywv.com. And of course, we appreciate your comments and encouragement along the way as well. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team, including our producer today, Mr. Jimmy Murray behind the controls, I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Stay positive, West Virginia.